This is the long haul, a sleep story. The year is 2283. You are the captain of the MSV Meridian, a cargo freighter on the long circuit through the outer solar system. 14 months ago you left Luna. You have delivered cargo to the Moon, to Ceres, to Titan, to Mars, and to Europa. Now you are arriving at the last port of call, Cassini Station, orbiting Saturn. After this, the long run home. The station is famous for two things: the Ring Gallery, a transparent corridor where you can see Saturn's rings through the floor, the walls, and the ceiling, and the Espresso Ring, a cafe where a man named Tomas has been making the best espresso in the solar system for 40 years, using water from Enceladus. This is the final stop. Close your eyes, settle in, and if you feel comfortable, click like and subscribe. It really helps. And leave a comment to let us know where in the universe you are listening from tonight. Now, let the journey carry you to rest. You wake to a change in the hum. Not louder, not softer, different. A shift in pitch so slight that you cannot name it, only feel it. A new note threading through the old one. The Meridian has been decelerating for 2 days, shedding the speed it built on the long crossing from Europa, and now the drive has found its final register. The approach tone, the last approach tone of the circuit. You lie in your bunk. The cabin is dim. The amber lamp glows at its lowest setting, casting warm light across the familiar surfaces, the desk, the locker, the small shelf where your things have lived for 14 months. Everything in its place. Everything worn smooth by habit. The viewport above you holds Saturn. Not distant. Not a dot among the stars, the way it looked from Mars, or a pale disk, the way it looked from Europa. Here now, Saturn fills the glass. Enormous and quiet. The cloud bands visible, cream, amber, pale yellow, darker stripes of brown curving along the equator. The atmosphere layered like sediment, like something geological, like something that has been settling for 4 billion years and will settle for 4 billion more. And the rings. From this angle they are edge-on, a thin, bright line crossing the disk of the planet, so narrow it looks like a scratch in the glass. A hair of light. Edge-on alignment happens twice per Saturnian year, roughly every 15 Earth years. You are arriving during one of those windows. A rare thing, a quiet thing. Most people never see it. You watch it for a long time. The planet turns, though you cannot see it turn. The light shifts in gradients so slow they might be imagined. You have woken to many viewports on this journey. The gray plains of the Moon, the tumbling stars above Ceres, Titan's orange haze, the rust-red cliffs of Mars, Europa's cracked ice, each one different, each one the first thing you saw on a new morning in a new place. This is the last one. You dress slowly. The coveralls are soft from washing, the fabric thinned at the elbows and knees. You have worn them at every port. They smell faintly of recycled air and ship soap and something you cannot name, the accumulated scent of 14 months of living in a metal corridor between the stars. The galley is warm. Patel is there, as he always is, standing by the kettle with his hands wrapped around a mug. Olympus sunrise. You recognize the scent, the tea you carried from Mars, the tea Inara pressed into your hands at the roastery in Valia's Marineris. Patel has been rationing it carefully. This might be his last cup before home. He nods when you enter. Captain. He tilts his head toward the viewport above the galley counter. Saturn, again, from this angle. Slightly different, the rings still edge on, but the shadow of the planet falling across the far side, a dark curve against the bright line. Last stop, he says quietly. Rosario is in the corner with a technical manual, as she always is. She has read her way through the ship's entire library twice over. She looks up and offers a small smile, then returns to her page. The quiet companionship of people who have shared a long road and no longer need to fill the silence. You pour coffee from the galley dispenser. Ship coffee. You have drunk it every morning for 14 months. It is thin and slightly bitter, and it tastes like the Meridian. After today, you will not drink it again for a long time. You are surprised to find that you will miss it. The docking announcement comes through the intercom. A soft chime, then the navigator's voice, calm and measured. Cassini Station, Ring Dock Alpha, approach vector confirmed. Docking in 40 minutes. The crew stirs. Not urgently, they have done this 5 times before, but there's something in the air, a lightness, a quiet anticipation. The last port has its own gravity. Through the forward viewport on the bridge, Cassini Station resolves from the dark. It is larger than you expected. Larger than Ceres Station. Larger than the Europa outpost. 3 concentric rings spinning at different rates around a central hub. The whole structure lit from within. Warm light spilling from 1,000 windows. Behind it, Saturn. The station looks small against the planet, and then you remember that the station is 3 kilometers across and the planet is 120,000 kilometers wide, and scale loses all meaning out here. The docking clamps engage with a deep, resonant thud. The Meridian shudders once and goes still. The drive note drops away, replaced by the station's own hum, higher, steadier, the sound of a place that never moves. The airlock cycles, the pressure equalizes, and the door opens onto Cassini Station, the last port of call on the longest road you know. The arrival hall is wide and high-ceilinged, built from pale composite panels and brushed steel. It reminds you of Ceres, but busier, people moving in clusters, voices layered over the hum of ventilation, the soft chime of announcements in 3 languages. Screens display departure schedules, cargo manifests, weather reports from Titan. A child runs past, laughing, chasing another child through the crowd. And then you see it. The far wall of the arrival hall is not a wall. It is a viewport, floor to ceiling 30 meters wide, and through it, Saturn. Close enough to touch, if touch meant anything at this scale. The cloud bands rolling in slow, vast ribbons, the colors more vivid than any image you have ever seen. Cream and gold and amber, threaded with veins of darker brown, and a pale blue-gray at the poles that looks almost like weather on Earth. You stop. People flow around you. You stand in the middle of the arrival hall and look at the planet, and for a moment you forget that you're a captain, that you have cargo to offload, that there are manifests and protocols and schedules. You are just a person standing in front of a window looking at something too large to hold in the mind. You have seen Saturn before. From Titan you watched it set over the Methane Sea, its light bleeding amber along the horizon, the rings a bright arc overhead. From Europa it was a pale lamp among Jupiter's moons. But from here, from orbit, it is different. It is not a backdrop or a distant companion. It is the thing itself, present and enormous and patient. The rings still edge on from this vantage, cut across the disk like a bright seam, a line of light so thin and so precise that it seems drawn by hand. You know that in a few hours, as you move through the station to the outer ring, the angle will change. The rings will open. You will see them as no photograph has ever shown them, but for now this, the planet, the line, the light. You turn from the viewport and follow the signs toward the spine. The station's central axis, zero gravity, the quickest route from the docking ring to the outer sections. You have walked spines on Ceres and Europa. Each station builds them differently. This one is wider than most, lined with handholds of polished aluminium, and the walls are painted a soft gray-blue that reminds you of sky. You push off and float. The sensation is always the same, the stomach lifting, the body forgetting its weight, the world becoming directionless for a moment before your hands find the rail and you orient yourself. After 14 months on the meridian, where the drive provides a gentle pull, true weightlessness still surprises you. Viewports line the spine at intervals, and as the station rotates, Saturn sweeps past them in a slow, repeating rhythm. Gold light, then dark, then gold again. Each flash lasts 3 seconds. The planet appearing, filling the glass, then sliding away as the station turns. Gold, dark, gold, dark, a heartbeat made of light. Other people float past you in the spine, a technician carrying a toolbox strapped to her hip, a pair of children tumbling in slow somersaults, their laughter echoing off the curved walls, a man in a station uniform who nods as he passes, the practiced ease of someone who has lived in zero gravity for years. The silence of the spine is particular. It is the silence of air without wind, of space enclosed, of a corridor that leads from one kind of gravity to another. You can hear the station breathing, the ventilation system pushing air in long, steady currents, the faint creak of the structure as it turns, the distant thrum of the spin motors far below. You drift past a viewport and catch Saturn mid-transit. The ring's edge-on are a thread of silver across the golden face. You think of the bloom on Europa, light in the dark, a thin, bright line of life where there should have been nothing. Dr. Okafor had stood at the viewport of the submersible and wept, quietly, her hand pressed to the glass, light finding a way. The spine narrows as you approach the mid-ring, the transition section. Handholds become ladder rungs. Your weight returns gradually, first a suggestion, then a pull, then gravity settling over your shoulders like a coat. Your boots find the floor. You are standing again. The mid-ring opens before you. It is the widest section of the station, the living quarters and public spaces, and it is designed to feel like a place rather than a machine. The corridor is broad and lined with planters, real soil, real plants. Ferns, herbs, small flowering bushes with white blossoms. The air is different here, greener, softer, alive. You pass through an archway and the corridor opens into a park. Not large, perhaps 50 meters across, but real. Grass, trimmed short, soft under your boots. Dwarf oaks planted in rows, their branches spreading wide in the low gravity, broader than they would grow on Earth. A fountain at the center sends water upward in slow arcs, the droplets rising higher and falling slower than they should, tracing parabolas that belong to a gentler world. Finches. You hear them before you see them, small, bright calls threading through the hum of the station. They flit between the oak branches, brown and quick, and the sound they make is so purely terrestrial that it stops you. You have not heard birdsong since Mars, since the garden district in the Valles Marineris colony, where sparrows nested in the rafters of the greenhouse. You walk across the grass. It gives softly under your feet. The sensation is so simple and so rare out here, the yield of earth, the spring of living ground. You think of the atrium on the moon at Shackleton Port, where the birch trees grew in rows beneath the dome, their white bark catching the artificial sunlight. The grass there was the first you had walked on in months. This is the last. A bench sits beneath one of the oaks. You sit. The wood is warm. Above you, the canopy shifts in a breeze you cannot feel. Ventilation currents moving through the park, stirring the leaves just enough to make them whisper. Through the branches, through the transparent ceiling above, you can see the stars, and Saturn, turning slowly past, golden-banded and impossibly near. You watch a crew rotation passing through the park. 32 people in station uniforms, duffel bags over their shoulders, heading for the docking ring. Their tour is over. They are going home. 32 new faces will arrive to replace them, beginning their own year in the rings of Saturn. The station's rhythm of departure and return endlessly repeating, like a breath. One of them pauses by the fountain. A young woman, her bag slung low, her face turned upward. She is watching the water arc and fall. She reaches out and lets a droplet land on her palm. She smiles. Then she shoulders her bag and walks on, and the park absorbs the sound of her footsteps, and she is gone. You rise from the bench. The grass releases your boots with a soft sound. You follow the signs toward the outer ring, toward the ring gallery, and the corridor narrows as you leave the park behind. The air changes, cooler, drier, the scent of green fading into the clean mineral smell of the station's outer sections. A sign on the wall, simple white letters on dark composite, Ring Gallery, an arrow, and beneath it, in smaller text, lighting reduced beyond this point. Allow 3 minutes for dark adaptation. The corridor dims. The overhead panels fade to a deep amber, then to a faint red, then to almost nothing. You walk slowly. Your footsteps are quiet on the composite floor. The walls on either side are still opaque, dark metal, riveted, functional. But ahead you can see the transition point where the walls end and something else begins. You reach the threshold. A low rail marks the edge. Beyond it, the corridor opens into the gallery, and the walls, the floor, the ceiling, all of it become transparent. You step through, and you stop. Darkness. For a moment, that is all there is. The lights behind you have faded completely, and your eyes have not yet adjusted, and you stand in a corridor of glass surrounded by what seems to be nothing. Black above, black below, black on every side. The universe, empty and vast and close. Then your eyes adjust. Slowly, the way eyes do, the pupils widening, the rods waking, the brain recalibrating what it means to see, and the rings appear. They come in layers. First, a faint glow, like mist, stretching across your field of vision in a broad, curving band. Then structure within the glow lines, gaps, gradations of brightness. Then detail, more detail than you expected, more than you thought possible, the rings resolving from a wash of light into something textured and intricate and alive with physics. The gallery runs along the outer circumference of the station's outermost ring. The transparent corridor wraps the full 360 degrees. From here, you are above the ring plane, just barely, just enough for the rings to open from that edge-on line into a broad shimmering disk that extends in every direction. Through the floor, through the walls, through the ceiling, you are inside the rings. Billions of particles. Each one a piece of ice, some the size of a grain of sand, some the size of a house, most somewhere in between. Each one catching the distant sunlight and reflecting it, scattering it, turning it. Each one a tiny mirror in the dark. Together they make this, a plane of light, a river of ice, a structure so vast and so delicate that it should not exist, and yet it does, and has for longer than anything human. You walk. Slowly. The transparent floor beneath your feet shows the rings below. Not far below, not the safe distance of a viewport on a ship, but close, as though you could reach down and trail your fingers through the ice. The glass is thick, you know that, rated for micrometeorite impact, engineered to a tolerance you trust. But the lizard part of your brain does not care about engineering. It sees the void beneath your feet and it whispers. You breathe, you walk, the whisper fades, and the rings hold you. The B ring is brightest. It stretches to your left, dense and luminous, the thickest band of ice in the system. The particles here are packed close, jostling, colliding in slow motion, their collective glow a soft, steady white with hints of cream. It is the heart of the ring system, the place where the ice is deepest and the light is strongest. Within the B ring you can see density waves, ripples in the ice caused by the gravitational pull of Saturn's moons. They roll through the ring in slow spirals, compressing and releasing the particles in patterns that repeat over thousands of kilometers. Like waves on a beach, like wind through wheat, like something breathing. The Cassini division, you see it clearly, a dark gap between the B ring and the A ring, wide and clean, a river of emptiness running through the ice. It is not truly empty. There are particles here, sparse and scattered, but so few compared to the rings on either side that it reads as darkness. A pause. A held breath between two notes. Beyond the division, the A ring, thinner than the B ring, more translucent, the ice more scattered. You can see stars through it, faint points of light shining through the gaps between particles, as though the ring were a veil rather than a wall. The Enki gap cuts through it, a narrow dark line maintained by a tiny moon you cannot see, a shepherd moon sweeping its orbit clean. And at the outermost edge, the F ring, narrow and bright and braided, two strands of ice wound around each other in a slow helix, shaped by the gravity of two shepherd moons pulling from either side. It looks fragile. It looks like something that should unravel. It has been braided like this for millions of years. You walk on. The gallery curves gently to the right, following the circumference of the station, and as you walk, the angle of the rings shifts. What was a broad disc seen from slightly above begins to tilt, revealing new structure. The inner edge of the C ring, faint and ghostly, the closest ring to Saturn, so thin that the planet's cloud bands glow through it like light through gauze. Saturn's shadow falls across the far side of the ring system. A dark wedge, sharp-edged, the planet blocking the sun. The boundary between lit and unlit is precise on one side. The rings glow with reflected sunlight. On the other, they vanish into darkness. The lit portion is brighter by contrast, almost incandescent, as though the shadow makes the light more itself. You think of Europa, the dark ocean, the bioluminescent bloom rising from the thermal vents, blue-green light spiraling upward through water that had never seen the sun. Dr. Okafor, her face pressed to the viewport, tears running down her cheeks. Life, making light in the dark. Here ice makes light in the dark. Not life, just physics, just sunlight striking frozen water and bouncing back. But the effect is the same. Beauty emerging from simple things, the universe, finding ways to glow. Other people walk the gallery. Not many. The space encourages solitude, the darkness and the silence creating a kind of hush that visitors respect instinctively. A child ahead of you is lying face down on the transparent floor, her palms flat against the glass, her nose pressed to it. She is looking straight down into the rings. Her mother stands nearby, watching her, smiling. You pass them quietly. The child does not look up. She is absorbed completely, the way only children can be, the whole of her attention given to the ice beneath the glass, the particles catching light, the vast and gentle machinery of gravity and motion playing out below her small hands. Further along, an old man sits on a bench set into the wall. He is not moving. His hands rest on his knees. His eyes are open, fixed on some middle distance where the rings curve away into darkness. He has the look of someone who has been here many times, who comes here the way some people go to the sea, not to see anything new, but to see the same thing again and find it unchanged. A couple stands by the transparent wall, holding hands, silhouetted against the glow of the B ring. They do not speak. They do not need to. The rings say everything there is to say about time and patience and things that endure. You walk on. The gallery curves and the rings turn with you. Every few steps the perspective shifts, a gap you had not noticed opens up, A density wave catches the light at a new angle. A cluster of larger particles flares briefly as they tumble into sunlight. The ring system is not static. It is moving, always moving, each particle on its own orbit, its own slow path around the planet, and the patterns you see are temporary, fleeting, written in ice and erased by gravity and written again. You stop at a wider section of the gallery where the corridor bulges outward into a small observation alcove. A bench curved to match the wall. You sit. The transparent floor extends to the edge of the alcove, and from here you can look straight down into the ring plane and straight up, and to either side, and there is nothing between you and the ice but glass and silence. You sit for a long time. Minutes pass. You lose track. The rings do not change, or rather they change so slowly that change itself becomes invisible, becomes a kind of stillness, the way a river seems still when you watch it long enough. The ice turns. The light shifts. The density waves roll through in their ancient spirals, and you sit and watch and breathe. The light from the rings is not white, you realize. Not truly. It carries color, faint but there. The sunlit ice nearest you has a warm tone, almost golden. Further out, where the particles are smaller and more scattered, the light cools to silver, and at the very edges where the ring thins to nothing there is a pale blue, like the last light of a winter afternoon on Earth. You think of the blue sunrise on Mars, standing at the rim of Valles Marineris in the early morning, watching the sun come up through the thin atmosphere, the light scattering through the dust, the sky turning a color that had no name, not blue exactly, not purple, something between, something that only Mars could make. Inara had stood beside you, both of you silent, both of you holding cups of coffee that were growing cold, because neither of you could look away. Light, doing what light does, scattering, reflecting, refracting, making beauty from geometry, making color from distance, the same physics everywhere you have been, the same simple rules producing different wonders at every stop. A sound reaches you, faint, resonant, a low hum that is not the station. It takes you a moment to place it. The rings themselves, not a sound, exactly, a vibration transmitted through the station's structure, picked up from the particles impacting the outer hull in an endless, gentle rain. Micrometeorites, dust, the smallest fragments of ice tapping against the glass like snow against a window. You close your eyes and listen. The tapping is irregular, unpredictable, each impact a tiny event in a vast system, and together they make a sound like rain on a roof, far away, in a place you have not been for 14 months, Earth, where rain falls because it must, because the water cycle demands it, because the atmosphere is thick enough to hold clouds. Here, ice falls because Saturn holds it, because gravity shapes everything, because the universe likes circles. You open your eyes. The rings are still there. They will be there when you leave, and when the station completes its next orbit, and when the next crew arrives and the next. They were here before humans came to Saturn, and they will be here long after. You are passing through. The rings are staying. You rise and continue walking. The gallery curves onward, the perspective shifting with each step. Now you can see Saturn directly, the planet itself, not just the rings. It hangs beyond the ring plane, enormous, its cloud bands moving in currents you cannot see, its atmosphere deeper than oceans, deeper than anything. The rings extend from it like an outstretched hand, palm open, offering something it has held for aeons. You have walked perhaps a quarter of the circumference. The gallery stretches ahead, curving into darkness, the rings glowing on every side. You are in no hurry. There is nowhere else to be. This is the last port, and the gallery is the last wonder, and you are walking through it the way you have walked through every wonder on this circuit, slowly, quietly, with your eyes open and your mind still. The halfway point. A small plaque set into the floor marks it, a brass disc engraved with the station's coordinates and the words, "You are here," among the rings of Saturn. Someone has placed a coin on the plaque, an old Earth coin, worn smooth. A tradition, perhaps, a small offering to a large place. From this angle, the rings are at their widest. The full breadth of the system is visible, from the faint C ring near Saturn to the braided F ring at the outer edge. The span is enormous, 280,000 kilometers from inner edge to outer, and all of it visible, all of it glowing, all of it made of ice and light and nothing else. You think of Cobb's books, back on Cassini Station, the old librarian shelving volumes in the quiet room above the docking ring. He had told you that every book is a ring of sorts, a structure made of small things, words arranged in patterns, held together by invisible forces. You had smiled at the metaphor. Now, standing inside the real thing, you understand it differently. The gallery begins to curve back toward the station's inner sections. The rings shift again, tilting, narrowing, the far edge swinging behind Saturn, the near edge brightening. The perspective change is gradual, almost imperceptible, a slow rotation of the entire visible universe as you walk a circle within a circle within a circle. You reach the far end of the gallery. The transparent walls give way to dark composite. The corridor narrows. The ambient light returns in slow increments, faint red, then amber, then the warm white of the station interior. Your eyes adjust again, contracting, and the after-image of the rings lingers on your retinas for a long time, a bright ghost fading slowly into the ordinary light of a corridor. A sign. The Espresso Ring. An arrow pointing left, down a short corridor paneled in dark wood. Real wood, you can see the grain, the knots, the slight imperfections that no composite can imitate. Someone has hung a small chalkboard on the wall. Written in careful script, today's water, Enceladus, South Polar Basin, beans, Tharsis blend, Mars. You step inside. The cafe is small, 8 tables, maybe 10. The ceiling is low, the walls lined with hand-finished panels of walnut and brass fixtures that have been polished by decades of hands. The light is warm amber, like the lamp in your cabin, but richer, thrown by actual bulbs behind frosted glass. The air smells of coffee. Not ship coffee, real coffee. The kind that fills a room and changes the way you breathe. Behind the bar, the espresso machine. You recognize it before you recognize the man. A la Marzocca, chrome and brass. The boiler housing polished to a mirror finish. It is old, genuinely old. Not replicated, not printed. Imported from Earth, the story goes, decades ago. Shipped to Saturn in a crate marked fragile, which must have been the understatement of the century. And behind the machine, Tomas Lindquist, 73 years old. 40 years on Cassini Station. He came as an engineer, the way most people come to the outer system on a contract. For a tour with plans to return, he never left. He built this bar with his own hands, in a storage room that nobody wanted, using wood he traded for and brass he salvaged. 40 years of pulling shots in the rings of Saturn. He is not tall. His hair is white, cropped short. His hands are steady, engineer's hands, barista's hands. The hands of someone who has spent a lifetime making small, precise adjustments to complicated machines. He wears a dark apron over station clothes, and when he looks up as you enter, his eyes are sharp and warm and unhurried. He sees the patch on your sleeve, the Meridian MSV long-haul cargo. His eyebrows lift, just slightly. "The circuit?" he asks. You nod. Full circuit. Luna, Ceres, Titan, Mars, Europa. He lets out a slow breath, the way someone does when they hear something they respect. And now here, he says, the last stop. 14 months, you say. He nods. He does not ask how it was. He does not ask what you saw. He has been here 40 years. He has seen captains at the end of the circuit before, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. He knows the look, the quiet, the particular kind of tired that is not exhaustion but completion. He has a drink for it. He turns to the machine. His movements are precise and unhurried. The portafilter removed, tapped clean, refilled with grounds from a hand-cranked grinder. He tamps with a level, even pressure, the kind of consistency that only comes from doing something 10,000 times. He locks the portafilter into the group head and the machine hisses softly, a sound like a whisper, like steam finding its way. Near the bar, a small exhibit. A glass case containing a cylinder of clear liquid, Enceladus water. A plaque explains, harvested from the geysers of Saturn's sixth largest moon, where subsurface ocean water erupts through cracks in the ice crust and freezes in plumes hundreds of kilometers tall. The water is collected, melted, filtered through kilometers of subsurface ice. The purest water in the solar system. That water is in the machine now, heated to precisely 93 degrees, forced through the grounds at 9 bars of pressure, the chemistry of extraction, dissolving the oils, the acids, the sugars from the roasted bean into a liquid that carries flavor the way the rings carry light. Simple ingredients, extraordinary result. The shot pours. A thin stream of dark liquid falling into a white ceramic cup. The crema forms on top, deep amber, the color of Saturn's cloud bands, rich and smooth and holding the aroma like a lid holds steam. The stream thins, pales, and Tomas cuts it with a practiced turn of the lever. 28 seconds. He sets the cup on the bar. The smell reaches you before you lift the cup. It is overwhelming, not in volume but in depth. After 14 months of ship coffee, this is like stepping from a corridor into a cathedral. Layers of scent folding over each other, roasted grain, dark chocolate, something floral that might be jasmine, something earthy that might be wet stone. The Tharsis beans are nothing special, they say. The water is everything. You lift the cup. The ceramic is warm in your hands. You take the first sip and it is a shock, not of bitterness or heat but of presence. The coffee is here, fully, completely here, in a way that ship coffee never is. It fills your mouth and your mind, and for a moment there is nothing else. No station, no circuit, no 14 months, just this. The taste of water from a moon of Saturn, carrying the ghost of a bean grown on Mars, made into something perfect by a man who chose to stay. You carry the cup to a table by the viewport. Saturn is there, framed in a small square of glass. The rings edge on again from this angle, a bright line bisecting the golden disk. You sit. The chair is wooden, worn smooth, comfortable in the way that only old furniture can be, shaped by years of bodies, fitted to the human form by use rather than design. You think of Delphine's Cassini Station, her pour-over bar in the market level, the careful circles she drew with the kettle, the patience of the bloom, the way she watched the coffee, the way a painter watches paint dry, not waiting but attending. She had given you a second cup without being asked, because she knew, because baristas always know. Tomas brings a second cup. He sets it down without a word, without being asked, and returns to the bar. You look at the cup and then at him, and something passes between you that does not need language. Gratitude, perhaps, or recognition. The understanding that some kindnesses are universal, that they cross the distance between worlds, that a second cup of coffee is the same gesture whether it is offered on Ceres or on Saturn. You drink slowly. The espresso cools in stages, each temperature revealing a different layer of the flavor. Hot, It is bold and smoky. Warm, the chocolate emerges. Cooler, a brightness appears, citrus or berry, something alive in the aftertaste. The water carries it all, the purity of Enceladus giving each note room to exist, the way silence gives room to music. Through the viewport, Saturn rotates in its slow, vast turn. The cloud bands shift. A storm system the size of Europa churns near the equator, cream-colored, its edges fraying into the surrounding atmosphere. You watch it the way you watch weather, passively, with the distant attention of someone who knows they cannot change it and does not want to. Behind the bar, you notice a potted olive tree. Small, no taller than your forearm, its leaves silver green and dusty, its trunk gnarled in miniature. A tag on the pot reads, Valles Marineris Agricultural Colony Mars, gift to Cassini Station. A piece of Mars here, in a coffee shop in the rings of Saturn, the connections between places spanning the dark. You have carried things between worlds yourself, cargo, officially. But also Patel's tea from Mars, stories from Ceres, the memory of Europa's bloom, which you will carry forever, which weighs nothing and is worth everything. The circuit is a chain of places, and each place sends something to the next, and the chain never breaks because people keep traveling it, keep carrying things, keep remembering. Tomas wipes the bar with a cloth. The motion is automatic, the cloth moving in slow circles, the brass reflecting his hands. He has done this every day for 40 years. Wiped the bar, pulled the shots, watched Saturn through the viewport. The routine of a life chosen and kept. You finish the second cup. The ceramic clicks softly against the table. The cafe is quiet. 2 other customers, both reading, both cradling cups in their hands the way people do when the coffee is too good to rush. The light through the viewport shifts as the station turns, Saturn sliding from one side of the glass to the other, and the room dims and brightens in a rhythm as slow as breathing. You sit for a while longer. There is no schedule pressing you. The cargo has been offloaded. The hydrogen fuel cells are being loaded from the atmospheric skimmers, Saturn's upper atmosphere, harvested and compressed, the fuel that will carry you home. The crew is handling it. Your job for these last hours is to be here, to sit, to drink coffee, to look at Saturn. You think about home, Luna, 4 months away, the apartment you have not seen in 14 months, the weight of Earth's moon underfoot, the familiar gravity, the corridors of Shackleton Port where the birch trees line the atrium and the light comes through the dome in long golden shafts, the observation deck where you sat before departure and watched the Earth rise, blue and small and impossibly far away. 4 months, the longest single leg of the circuit, Saturn to Luna, with nothing in between but the dark and the stars and the hum of the drive. You have done it before, you will do it again. But for now, you are here in a cafe that smells of coffee and walnut wood, with Saturn filling the window and the memory of the rings still glowing behind your eyes. You stand. You leave a coin on the table, an old habit, from Earth, from a time before the circuit, before the meridian, before you knew what Saturn looked like from the inside. Tomas nods from behind the bar. He does not say goodbye. He says, "Safe home, Captain." The way he must say it to every captain who finishes the circuit, the way it must always sound warm and simple and true. You walk back through the gallery corridor. The lights dim again as you enter, and for a moment you are back among the rings, the glow, the ice, the vast silence. You do not stop this time. You walk through it slowly, letting the light wash over you one last time, carrying it with you the way you carry all the things you have seen. The mid-ring park. You cross it one more time. The grass, the oaks, the fountain with its slow arcs, The finches, still singing, always singing. Their small voices filling the manufactured air with something that sounds like home. You stop by the fountain and let the sound of the water wash over you, the gentle splash, the rise and fall, the rhythm of something simple doing what it was made to do. The spine. Zero gravity again, you push off and float, and Saturn sweeps past the viewports in its steady rhythm. Gold, dark, gold, dark. Your body is weightless and your mind is quiet, and you drift through the center of the station like a thought passing through a sleeping mind. Near the docking ring you see it. The departure window, a viewport set into the wall of the corridor, larger than the others, framed in dark metal. There is no sign. Everyone who works here knows what it is, the place where departing crews stop to look back at Saturn one last time before boarding their ships. The viewport frame is scratched with names and dates. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, etched into the metal with whatever tool was at hand, a stylus, a bolt, a fingernail. Names from every corner of the solar system, dates spanning decades, some in languages you cannot read, some accompanied by small drawings, a star, a ring, a ship, like the meridian window on Ceres where crews scratch their names before departure. The same impulse repeated across the dark. I was here. I saw this. I'm going home. You look through the glass. Saturn, the rings edge on, a bright thread. The cloud bands, cream and amber and brown. The shadow on the far side, dark and sharp. The last time you will see this for a long time. Perhaps the last time ever. Circuits change, routes shift. The solar system is large and a lifetime is short. You look, and you let the image settle into you. The way a stone settles into water, sinking slowly, finding its place. Okafor finds you there. She stands beside you, looking through the same glass. She does not speak for a long time. Then, it reminds me of Europa. You nod. You know what she means. Not the ice, though. There is ice here, too. The scale. The beauty of something so large it humbles you, so quiet it stills you, so old it makes your own life feel brief and bright and precious. Ready? She asks. You take one more breath, one more look. The rings, the planet, the light. Then you turn from the window and walk toward the airlock, and the station falls away behind you, and the corridor narrows and the air changes, and the meridian's own particular scent reaches you, recycled atmosphere and warm metal, and the herbs growing in the corridor plantus, and you are home. Not home, but the closest thing to it that you have known for 14 months. The ship, your ship. The corridor with its worn carpet and its amber lamps and its quiet hum. The galley where Patel brews his tea. The common room where Rosario reads. The cabin with a viewport and the bunk and the desk where you have written 14 months of logs in careful, ordinary words. The departure checklist runs on the bridge. Systems nominal. Fuel cells loaded hydrogen from Saturn's skimmers. Enough for the crossing. Navigation plotted the long arc inward, past the orbit of Jupiter, past the asteroid belt, past Mars to Luna. 4 months, the longest single leg, the road home. The docking clamps release. You feel them go, a series of metallic thuds, deep in the hull, each one a connection severed, each one the station letting go. The meridian shifts, barely, the faintest drift as the ship becomes its own world again, untethered, free. The drive comes to life. The hum changes, rising from the low idle it has held during docking to its cruising register, the note you know better than any other sound in the universe. The homeward note. The frequency of 4 months of crossing, of darkened stars and the steady accumulation of distance. Through the stern viewport, Cassini Station falls away. Slowly at first, then faster, the 3 rings of the station shrinking against the face of Saturn. The windows dim to points of light. The structure becomes a shape, then a mark, then a star among stars. And behind it, always behind it, the planet, golden, banded, ringed with its thin, bright line of ice. Saturn grows larger in the stern viewport as the meridian accelerates away on an outward tangent, the planet's face swelling to fill the glass one last time. You can see the cloud bands clearly, the storms, the stripes, the subtle colors that no camera has ever captured truly. Then the ship's course bends inward toward the sun, and Saturn begins to shrink. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, then noticeably, then unmistakably. The last port falling behind. You go to your cabin. The door slides open with its familiar whisper. The amber lamp is on. The bunk is made. You made it this morning, the last morning of the outward circuit, not knowing then that the next time you unmake it will be the first night of the homeward run. The viewport shows the stars, and among them, behind the ship, a golden dot that is Saturn, already smaller than your thumbnail. You sit on the edge of the bunk. The drive hums, the recycler breathes. The ship settles into its crossing rhythm, the steady state it will hold for 4 months, the gentle constancy that has been the background of your life for longer than you can easily remember. 14 months, 6 ports. You sit in the quiet of your cabin and the journey arranges itself in your mind, not as a timeline, not as a list, but as a collection of moments, each one luminous, each one held in place by the dark between them, like stars. The moon, Shackleton Port, the birch trees in the atrium, their white bark smooth and pale, their leaves trembling in the ventilation currents, the observation dome where you sat and watched the Earth rise, blue, fragile, impossibly far away. The first port, the beginning. Ceres. The asteroid belt, Delphine's pour-over, the slow circles of the kettle, the bloom of the grounds, the taste of something made with care in a place where care is a luxury. Cobb's library, books shelved in the quiet above the docking ring, the harvest festival, lanterns strung between the corridors, music drifting through the station like something remembered from a dream. Titan Kraken Mare. The methane sea, dark and still, stretching to the horizon under an orange sky. Saturn setting over the water, the light bleeding amber and gold across the surface, the rings a bright arc overhead. The silence of a world where the air is thick and the sound travels differently, where your own voice came back to you changed. Mars. Valles Marineris. The red cliffs, the thin air. The blue sunrise that Inara showed you from the rim of the canyon. Her roastery, the smell of roasting beans in the thin Martian air. Patel's tea, pressed into your hands as a gift, carried across the solar system to be drunk at a galley counter 14 months later. The connections between places. Europa. The ice tunnels. The submersible descending into the dark ocean. The lights of the vessel, the only light for kilometers. And then the bloom, blue-green, rising from the thermal vents. Life, ancient and alien and unmistakable, glowing in the dark of a moon of Jupiter. Okafor weeping at the viewport. The most extraordinary thing you have ever seen. And Saturn, the rings seen from inside. Billions of particles of ice catching sunlight, making light from nothing, making beauty from physics. The ring gallery, dark and quiet and infinite. Tomas and his espresso, made with water from a moon you could see through the window. The departure window, scratched with the names of everyone who ever looked back. 6 ports, 6 worlds, each one different. Each one offering something that no other place in the solar system could offer. And between them, the dark, the long crossings, the weeks and months of nothing but the hum of the drive and the stars through the viewport and the quiet company of a crew who became, somewhere along the way, a kind of family. In the galley, you can hear Patel putting the kettle on. The sound carries through the thin walls of the ship, the click of the switch, The quiet rush of water heating, the clink of a mug being set on the counter. His evening tea, the ritual that has marked the end of every day on the meridian, the small certainty in the vast uncertainty of space. Rosario will be in the common room, her feet tucked beneath her, a technical manual open on her lap. She reads the way some people meditate completely, the whole of her attention given to the page, the words entering her mind like water entering soil. She has read every manual on the ship. She has started again from the beginning, the circuit of knowledge endlessly repeating. The herbs in the corridor planters are growing well: basil, thyme, mint. They were planted at the start of the circuit, small seedlings in recycled soil, and they have grown with the journey, marking the passage of time in green, living increments. You brush your hand against the basil as you pass, and the scent rises sharp, bright, alive. The smell of growth in a place where nothing should grow. You return to your cabin. The viewport shows the stars, the same stars you have watched for 14 months, from 6 different worlds. From the moon, they were sharp and steady through the vacuum. From Ceres, they tumbled slowly as the station turned. From Titan, they were hidden behind the orange haze. From Mars, they shone through the thin atmosphere like needles. From Europa, they were obscured by Jupiter's glare. And from Saturn, they were backdrop to the rings. But now, between the worlds, with nothing between you and them, the stars are themselves, unchanged, unmoving, the same constellations that people have watched from Earth for thousands of years, the same patterns, the same light, traveling the same distances, arriving at the same eyes. They do not care where you are, they are always there. You undress. You fold your coveralls and set them on the chair. The fabric is thin and soft, and it holds the shape of the day. The creases at the elbows, the warmth at the collar. Tomorrow you will put them on again and begin the first full day of the homeward crossing, but that is tomorrow. You lie down. The bunk receives you the way it always has, the mattress finding the shape of your body, the pillow settling, the blanket falling across you in a weight that is neither too much nor too little. 14 months of nights in this bunk, it knows you. You know it. The most familiar place in the solar system. The amber lamp glows at its lowest setting. The shadows in the cabin are soft, the edges of things blurred, the hard lines of metal and composite gentled by the warm light. The drive hums its homeward note, a new note, subtly different from the outward hum, though you could not say how. Perhaps it is not different at all. Perhaps it is only that you are different, and the hum sounds different because you are listening with different ears. The recycler breathes in, out the steady rhythm of the ship, the mechanical lungs that keep the air clean and warm and alive. You have fallen asleep to this sound every night for 14 months. It is the most reliable thing you know, more reliable than gravity, which changes at every port, more reliable than light, which changes with every world. The recycler breathes, and you breathe with it. The circuit is complete. The outward road is done. 6 ports visited, 6 cargoes delivered, 6 worlds walked upon, and now the homeward road, the long, quiet return, the slow inward spiral, the gradual approach to Luna, and the end of the journey. 4 months of the hum and the stars and the gentle routine of the ship. You close your eyes. The rings are there behind your eyelids, a ghost of light, a memory of ice, the afterimage of something so beautiful that your mind keeps returning to it, turning it over, holding it up to the light. Billions of particles, each one a tiny mirror. Together, a river of light around a golden world. The longest road you know, that is what they call the circuit. Not the longest in distance, there are routes that go further. Probes that have traveled for centuries, light that has been moving since before the Earth was born. But the longest road that a person walks and returns from and walks again. The circuit will begin again. Another crew, another captain, another 14 months. But for now, for you, it is done. The hum carries you. It has always carried you through the crossings, through the dark, through the long hours between the worlds. It carries you now, toward Luna, toward home, toward the end of the road and the beginning of rest. The hum does not change. The hum is always there, the most patient sound in the universe. Your breathing slows, your body softens into the bunk. The stars turn in the viewport, silent and steady, the same stars, the same light, the same ancient patience. The ship moves through the dark, carrying you and the crew and the herbs in the corridor planters and the memory of 6 worlds. And the dark folds around the ship like water around a stone, and the stone sinks slowly, and the water is warm, and there is nothing left to do. Sleep. The deepest sleep. The sleep that comes after a long journey, when the road is done and the body knows it, when every muscle releases and every thought softens, and the mind lets go of the world and drifts into the quiet dark. The meridian carries you home, the hum holds you, the stars watch over you, and you sleep. The meridian turns for home, Luna, 4 months away, the circuit complete. You lie in your bunk and think about everything you have seen. The birch trees on the moon, white bark catching the light of the observation dome, delphines pour over on Ceres, the quiet precision of her hands. Saturn setting over a methane sea on Titan, the light bleeding amber along the horizon. A blue sunrise on Mars, the dust catching the first rays over Valles Marineris. Alien life glowing in Europa's dark ocean, blue-green and ancient and alive. And the rings seen from inside, glowing and infinite, billions of mirrors turning in the dark. 14 months, 6 ports. The longest road you know. The hum of the drive, the cabin, the stars, sleep. Sleep now. The meridian carries you home. Good night.